came over and we were talking about the show, and the working title ended up being the real title, Neighborhood Ecology.
Yeah, I think you actually like knew this right off the bat.
I guess it was like a gut feeling.
On point.
I kept calling it the working title because I didn't know.
And it worked.
and it stuck, like it, because it feels like this kind of examination by each of the artists, like almost scientific, like what their thing is, and yours, your entry point were these postcards.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about like how you sourced them or how this idea came to you back when you started. Was it 2019?
It was 2020, yeah. So I was like starting to play with them during COVID, like for a couple of reasons. One being just the reality of being isolated in a space that wasn't a studio. So like the size of the work, the materials that you could play with.
You had limited space, so that's why they were small.
I was 25, living in a small apartment, and so we were cramped up, and I still wanted to be making art, and it was like trying to think about how do I keep that practice going, which I think anyone coming out of art school, it's like a big part of
trying to keep
just how do I keep
momentum.
it going? Where do I go with this? And so I went from making large paintings in school and like in my first couple of years out to like, okay, well, how do I re-articulate to like the capacity or the confines of my life? So that was part of it. And then also like I felt at that time in the early 2020s, like late 2019 area, just like the identity politic became a big piece of the canon, and a lot of people were talking about this. And
I know you wrote about that in your bio a little bit.
I think I did,
really nice.
And I felt like, for me, it was nice to see identities and people speaking about themselves and their experiences through work. But I always struggled with this idea of like defaulting to the materials and the substrates that were like given to me in art school, right? So like
me too. I know we have that in common.
You're just like, here's stretcher bar, here's canvas,
right? And
I'm like, I'm not going to this like Parisian salon,
Right. It's just a very European like idea of what art making is.
Yeah, and I think I appreciated it a lot in school because I was trying to understand the origins of where these ideas come from, and I think for me, there's still a lot about these works that relate to art history. But I felt like there was probably materials or approaches to making art that felt more indicative to me and my experience here. And so like, weird to think of the word indigenous, but like me being indigenous to LA after my family immigrated here, you know, looking at postcards that were sourced from this landscape, from people who had experienced this landscape, literally the words taken from people who are expressing sentiment about my environment, was something that felt a lot more personal. And even things like the wood all being done out of walnut, I was just explaining to my
because
colleague,
the walnut groves. I remember us talking about this. I'm so glad we're doing this because I had forgotten about that.
Growing up, like I grew up in Studio City where like, 70 years ago, that was all walnut groves. And I remember growing up, everyone had a walnut tree. And then there was just this moment, probably in high school, where they all got sick.
Right.
And they all started getting cut down, or they were gentrifying the neighborhood. And so like all the walnut groves really disappeared. And so this series called Reliquaries kind of thinks about forgotten memory and the preservation or the encapsulation of these forgotten memories.
Yeah.
And so like using walnut even as a material to do that felt very like akin to my story. Yeah. So.
This is it's so good to and like hearing you talk about this like is making me realize there's so many other through lines that I hadn't like thought about it before the works became together here in the space. Like Susan's My Own City, that she started making in 2020, also because we were isolated from one another.
We had to keep busy somehow.
Yeah, it was
really
it's
tough.
like it's like a coping thing. Idle, to like try and keep busy. And then also Andrea, she with the work, what she does with soil, like having it like carry through the time, it like holds all these memories, the soil does.
Oh, for sure.
And she's got these this amazing hanging system that's made out of olive trees too.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we got a lot of like motifs here.
Walnut and everything. So
very indigenous to the landscape too. I mean, olives, we have olive orchards and like wineries and all this stuff.
Yeah, and I love this idea of reliquaries, how you're trying to kind of like capture this memory of this time and this place. And like you mentioned gentrification being like a part of what destroyed the walnut groves that you remembered from your childhood. And that's also a part of this story.
Yeah.
Like something I keep forgetting to bring up is this rock.
This rock, oh no, where's the rock from?
Special rock. Okay, this is
what?
How obsessive I get when I curate shows. But but the rock is the pink that you see highlighted throughout the show. These like, what do you call them? Accent walls?
Sure.
So this rock is from a building that I used to drive by every time commuting here to Glendale.
Okay.
At the intersection of the 110 and the 10. I would always see that pink building, and it was there forever. Everyone just knew it as the big pink building. Warehouse building.
Okay.
It's in Pico Union, right there off of like Pico and Albany. And 2 weeks before we started installing the show, they started repainting it.
Oh,
and I freaked out. I drove there at 7:30 in the morning.
Pink warehouse.
Not the pink. I was like, that's the pink. And because I knew I wanted the pink somewhere accent, like, because like pink makes me think of like SoCal sunsets and like all the businesses and homes that are pink. Like it just felt like LA, like it felt like this place. So that was the pink. So I went down there with my big camera. I'm taking pictures, and there was a guy there that was explaining to me. I was like, "What's going on? Where are they repainting it?" He was like, "Oh, it's got leased out, so the new building owners are repainting it white and red." But like, so he felt bad for me. I was like, I'm doing this art show, like I'm trying to find.
It's like, here's a rock.
So I was like, "Do you have anything I can color match?" I'm trying to color match it, and he gave me this rock. Okay, so this is from the building that is no longer.
And that's
pink.
what you color matched for the show.
I took it to Home Depot, and they made the pink.
That's pretty rad. Okay.
Using this rock.
I like that.
It was like and so I did a deep dive on this building, and it's in Pico Union, surrounded by like immigrant families.
Sure.
You know, it's slated to be developed into a big, stupid glass hotel building, like Oceanwide Plaza.
One of those, yeah.
One of those, and a lot of buildings. I've spoken to some friends that are from there that are slated for that type of development. And it's like that's such a story of Southern California, is that it's always changing, always getting developed, and people get pushed out, you know?
I feel like architecture is definitely a big piece of how people identify with Los Angeles because of like all the cultural communities within the different parts of LA. Like
it's so diverse.
And then there's just like this constant redevelopment, reconstruction, re-narrating of the city's culture, of the landscape.
Yeah.
So like you're always dealing, that's kind of some of this too. It's like this amalgamation of like high-end, like modernism, like taken from like modern paintings, but then also like Pokemon cards or like, really kitsch kind of aesthetics and things that just kind of resonated in my, brain somewhere. Like really,
totally.
And so like, even like these, like this is like the stucco, like you're talking about.
Oh, the stucco.
The colorful stucco, because growing up in the 90s,
yes.
all the houses in Studio City were these like little bungalow Hollywood houses.
Yeah, like Spanish style little bungalows.
Spanish style, and they would be like, one would be like bright green or like blue or, just like these really like colors that you would absolutely not want to have a realtor like represent today. Like the antithesis of anything.
Right. They're more neutrals, but it's like you're taking the life out of shit.
But it was like the greatest neighborhood when I was growing up, because you're just like, it felt like Edward Scissorhands, just like every house had its own color.
And I love that. Like that ended up being kind of like the heart of like what this show meant to me, was like that. What makes this place special is the people being able to express themselves and put pieces of themselves out into their homes and their businesses and their street tags and like the signage and like all just the stuff that makes this place special. Like
all the old signage and stuff. I mean, all of this is like, you don't see that kind of creativity or expression. Like I was always a huge fan of like Googie architecture.
Yeah, me too.
Which I felt like there was an era where that was like, that would be impossible today.
Right.
Like I just feel like no one would touch that.
Yes.
And I just feel like there's so much about LA's history that deals with this kind of like individualistic expression, experimentation.
Right.
It used to kind of have this like
attract visitors and welcome people.
Yeah, it was like this like it was this like quiet sensationalism where you could just take like a stucco box and just like paint it yellow and put some attachments on it and like make a rotating sign with bright neon, and all of a sudden it was like your thing. It was your shop. It was your storefront. Or it was like this really, indescript apartment building, but like the palms. And it was just like this like, I love this imagination that went into creation and the architecture. And
totally.
And I feel like today it's a little lost.
It's a little lost. I agree. And like that also ties into Megan Mueller's pieces, her scans of sidewalks, those beautiful like 20s teens era sidewalks that were meant to welcome you, to really like create like this amazing experience as you're walking past
in front of the theaters and stuff.
In front of the
like
theater.
The Pantages and stuff.
And we talked pretty early on. They're so cool, and it's also capturing a time like your pieces are. It's like encapsulating this time period where we were trying to be more welcoming. And I remember early on, this was probably a year or two before we actually started installing the show. Megan and I did a tour of the underground tunnels in downtown LA with a group called Esoteric.
Okay.
And they took us into this space in downtown that it's incredible. It's closed to the public now, but it's all these wood carved spaces, and it's like a dining hall. It was meant to be a place for you to rest when you're shopping downtown, you're running your errands and doing things. Meant for be a place for people to take a break, eat their lunch, sit down, rest their feet. We don't have spaces like that anymore.
To think about allocating like real estate square footage to like just chill here. Like it's just like no, like maximize every dollar.
Like maybe have some caring about the people that are keeping this place alive. But like we kind of just don't do that anymore. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the house that I grew up in was built in 1936, and like just seeing that existing still in this neighborhood that's been built up around these like developer compounds where you're like, okay, now it's like a 5,000 square foot box, and you're just like, everyone's just like maximize
square modern looking buildings. I know.
And you're just like, maybe like less is more sometimes. Like maybe you could like have a little bit of thoughtfulness to this. Like it doesn't, you know, it's just like a lot of things I think get like plugged and played, and I feel like especially with this show, it's cool seeing how artists from different eras though are like bringing little like weird vignettes of LA into like the forefront, and seeing them all together I think puts a really nice story like together. So it's cool. I appreciate you including me in the show.
Of course. Like one more aspect I wanted to go into before we finish is graphic design, because I remember I brought a friend through here who is really nerdy about graphic design, but I didn't know that yet. And he like lost it when he saw your work. He was like so into it. Like I could get lost.
Bring on the graphic design nerds.
The graphic design nerds need to come see the show, because he was just like, oh, these little, oh my God, it's amazing. Because like, and so could you talk a little bit about like what choices you make when you're deciding what the typeface you're going to go with after you've picked out this bit of text from the postcard?
Sure, yeah. I mean, for me, the text first is always sourced from the letters on the back, right? So based on what that is, if it's something that's, like a euphemism that I kind of resonate with, or that I would have seen somewhere in a movie or a comic book or something, or if it's something that's like really romantic, I'll try and play with that. And then the actual typefaces like are drawn from sometimes literal storefronts and things. Like, I mean, this one back here is like from the Blockbuster.
This one?
Yeah, that was like down the street. So I remember getting out of school and running on Fridays to be like, what's new at Blockbuster, and getting my like N64 game and like
the video games.
The new VHS,
Yes.
And so those are like little memories that I'm like, okay, I'll tell you all about it. It was like, this idea of like, well, I'll tell you all about what I pick up from Blockbuster on Friday, or like, I'll tell you what we did this weekend, because it was like this great experience that was like, I don't know, just like kind of like worked up to. And so I try and like pull a bit of that. I really do love like, I don't know why, but I'm like a sucker for like the kind of dingbat buildings, that like Ed Ruscha did a lot of documentation on, and like just the idea of like taking something so industrial or indescript and then putting this like really romantic like name on it or lettering on it. I thought there was something just like really like weirdly beautiful about that, of like we know you're living in just this like one bedroom apartment trying to make it in LA.
Right.
But to make that a little bit less intense and depressing for you, we're gonna like make it the Palms, or make it like the Tropicana.
The names,
or like it's like this real exoticism that goes into like the complete banality of like just life, everyday life here. And I love that. I love that element of LA, and I think that's been so much of like the legacy of the city from like the boosterism movements in like the 20s with like real estate and Hollywood. Like there wasn't really anything here. We just had to make a here and like convince other people that we were gonna like get it right,
Right, yeah.
And for me, like the fonts on these feel like that, right? They're like, taking it from like apparel brands, or like the Seinfeld logo, and from the studio that was down the street from my house growing up, or just like these things where I can like pull a little bit of familiarity into these, but I think they also should try and complement the sentiment of what they're saying. So
I love that.
Like I hope You Don't Think back there is done in like this kind of like Liechtenstein type font of what I could imagine being one of his comic book moments. The Hollywood sign, but then being jobs, because Hollywood is Hollywood. You're always working, and you're like, it's this sensationalism of being like a celebrity, or the decadence of like Hollywood, but it's just like work, and you're like, oh man, when is it actually going to turn into something?
We're back to capitalism, and that's what
we're always back to capitalism.
Driving everything.
So yeah, it's just like things like that, but they are all done graphically, so they're done on Photoshop. I do like transfers and stuff, so there is like a for real like graphic
like design
element. So I love the tactility of these, but there's also like very much like a digital component, which is kind of cool to combine those two worlds.
Right. So very cool. Awesome.